live.
We are.
All right. It
We're
says we're
live.
Yeah, so we're live once again on YouTube. I'm JP.
And I'm Julie.
This is the Book of Hours podcast live on YouTube. And today we're talking about the Oscars. We're naming this
Intersectionality.
podcast Intersectionality. Oh, by the way, happy post-Oscars.
Post-Oscars.
Yeah, we're going to dish on the Oscars today.
Mm-hmm.
So yesterday, Ashly Judd, in a very uncomfortable speech with two other women, blurted out the word intersectionality, which I don't know if she knew what it was before the Oscars or
I don't think
not.
Many Americans even know what
No,
intersectionality means.
I think it sent it on to the everybody onto Wikipedia or the other dictionary, and basically we included a link for it, but basically it's basically looking at race, not just race, but race, gender, disabilities, any sort of other, okay, can be viewed, they're not viewed as a separate plane of otherness, that they can be looked at equally when you're looking at the human condition. Okay.
Yeah, it was quite a word to throw out there.
Yeah, and I have a feeling that some of the producers may have thrown it out there and primed the people appearing with that idea and that concept, because it was pervasive throughout, yet it was completely off the mark.
Yeah, totally. So it was Ashly Judd and Salma Hayek, and then the woman in I don't know who she is.
Yeah.
Maybe she's the spokesperson for the Me Too campaign.
Me Too.
I think that's probably who she was.
Yeah, it was really an uncomfortable thing because they were like tripping over their words, and they were really.
Yeah. It didn't feel very genuine at all. So we're just going to throw out a couple of things regarding our takeaway from the Oscars yesterday. So we're like really super critical of it. We are,
and not from the standpoint of what you might think. We're not going to dish on the way people looked and what they said necessarily. What we're going to do, well, in some cases what they said, but in the context of what we're speaking. I wanted to go back real quick to the intersectionality thing, and I feel like it was sort of the underlying theme of the entire thing, but it didn't work the way it should have, because this is an awards ceremony.
Right.
It's supposed to be fun.
Intersectionality is a term that's often thrown around in the anarchist community.
Yeah.
And to hear it in a mainstream Hollywood community, it was so weird. It was like, clearly she doesn't even understand like the meaning of it, and how it's super complex.
But it's like, well, and it's in the academic community as well.
Right.
And what I think it might have happened is that there might have been some sort of consultant to the production and to because let's face it, the Oscars and the Academy is a corporation. And they hire people to help them. They're like, okay, we need to make this more inclusive and more, all this, and this consultant comes in and says, well, you need more intersectionality.
And they're like, oh, okay,
we'll say that.
We're actors, we can make it look real.
And corporations love buzzwords, and they love to take complex buzzwords and just reduce them to nothing, And so I guess what I'm trying to say is this was an award ceremony for a creative community, people who are used to having fun. It's supposed to be a fun event, and you can make it fun by making it inclusive. This is the point I want to make. You can make it fun by making it inclusive. And yet it just felt like they were ticking off all the marks. Okay, we've got large bodies. We have people from Mexico. We have people from Africa. We have a movie
checking
about,
off all the marginalized and all the wedge issues.
Exactly. We've got the
LGBT,
we've got
LGBT, the trans.
We've got the trans person. We've got the trans woman on stage. We've got and
we're really cynical. In case you hadn't figured that out yet.
Okay. So
we're
part
really
of it, I think,
cynical.
Julie and I, we're empathic types of people, and we see bullshit when we know it, or we know bullshit when we see it.
Right. So when we have legitimate feelings and legitimate thoughts and legitimate concerns about wedge issues and marginalized communities, which, these kinds of issues that are going on in our country literally keep us up at night. And then we see them introduced in this really insincere, disingenuous setting. As empaths, it really bothers us.
Well, Julie, what they did forget? They forgot somebody in a wheelchair.
Well, they did have the deaf.
They had the movie.
Won the deaf.
Yeah, the
movie
silent,
about the deaf.
whatever it was called.
Yeah,
and we're going to talk about
one
that,
of the documentaries was about it. So and then that one.
It was the short live action.
Okay, it was a short live action. Yeah. Whatever. Yeah. Documentary short live action. Whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
So we were, it's a couple of things that we were writing down last night, just as our thoughts as we were watching it. So there was a lot of posturing through disingenuous, can't even read my own writing, campaigns. And so what's with the need for American symbolism?
Right.
So apparently there was supposed to be an orange pin that everybody was supposed to wear, and it was the American flag rendered in orange, and only one person.
That we saw.
Yeah, that we saw. And I was actually looking, and I didn't really see anybody wearing it. And it's supposed to be anti-gun.
Right.
It's supposed to be like an anti-gun symbol.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really funny that there was actually no conversation about guns or about the Florida incident.
Right. I heard the word that community mentioned once, and it was in one of the songs. It was in that rap.
Oh, right. By Common.
But that was it. So we were both surprised at that. Not that we were hoping for that, but we were surprised at that.
Right.
But then the Time's Up pins were all over. The men had Time's Up pins. Just about all.
Oh, did they really?
Yeah.
I totally missed that.
And again, we're talking about.
I don't even know what that means.
Yeah, I looked them up. It's a .org. It's for, I don't know. It's for I know what it is. It's
an extension of the Me Too campaign, right?
Well, sort of. Yeah, it's about sexual harassment.
Oh, okay.
And it started at the Grammys.
Okay, so that's another thing. Like the elephant in the room when you're dealing with sexual harassment in Hollywood, the absolute elephant in the room is all the pedophilia that goes on, all of the abuse of children that goes on. That's part of the. Everybody knows it.
Right, and there were 3 billboards that went up near the theater.
Yeah.
That were awesome.
Oh
we'll
my
put
God.
that link in too.
The 3 billboards. So there were 3 billboards that went up around the theater, and they were only up for 10 hours. And they were in bright pink, and then in black lettering. They
were imitating the movie.
They were imitating the movie,
right.
Which was brilliant, and it was a guerrilla artist that did it. So props to.
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons we watch the Oscars, is so that we can see the.
Well, it's pop culture.
The stuff that comes out of it, not necessarily
exactly,
because we're really interested in what fucking Oprah Winfrey has to say or whatever, but because we want to see the reaction from the guerrilla artists and from the community that's still trying to give a voice to the real issue, the elephant in the room, which is pedophilia.
Right.
That's Hollywood.
Right.
And so they really dance around it when they say the time's up, no more sexual harassment in allowed or whatever.
And so to riff on that, basically the time's up thing is basically it's mostly focusing on sexual harassment from a man towards a woman, and they're adults, or mostly adults, I suppose. But they didn't really come out and say, but it was implied. I guess that's the best thing. But here's my take on that whole thing. Like I said earlier, the Academy and the Oscars, it's a corporation, and so is Time's Up is a nonprofit, but it's nonprofits like that, and Greenpeace and RAN, all these nonprofits. They are the flip side of the coin of capitalism. Of the capitalist coin has 2 sides. One is corporations, and the other is the nonprofit. The big nonprofits, the Red Crosses and the Greenpeaces, and Time's Up, and these quote unquote movements that exist. Basically, they curtail any sort of original thought, and they allow people to say, "Me too," or "I'm part of this movement,"
Right.
But it's very controlled messaging, right? Okay, so that there's no way to get outside of that little boxed-in message. Okay, so it's very corporate in that way. It's very marketing oriented and PR oriented. And so my final point around that is that, and I don't know if this is written down, but something that I pointed out to Julie last night was, remember when, and we put something on Book of Hours on our Facebook page, you did, about Redgrave, Vanessa Redgrave, making a speech and criticizing a group that lifted her up because she was in two different movies. One was about, being a Jewish woman killed by the Nazis, but then she was in another movie called The Palestinians, and they were criticizing for her for that. So she, in her speech, her acceptance speech, gave a political announcement.
Right.
And, this goes
like
back...
when Marlon Brando brought in the Native American to accept the award,
and it was about
on his
Wounded Knee.
behalf, and it was about Wounded Knee. So these specific, agendas for each actor were brought in, and it wasn't corporatized. It wasn't like... It wasn't taken over and polluted and corrupted by co-opted by the corporation. So, I think that one actor that continues to do his own message and have his own platform is Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah.
He still is, all about the environment. So,
But definitely,
So we're missing that singular voice. We're missing, the thing that sets the one actor or actress apart from the establishment,
Right,
so
exactly.
They're coming out holding hands and showing this sort of like weird unified message that's really disingenuous, and I don't know. It just kind of
really felt false.
We actually felt kind of depressed
after the show, because it just felt so forced.
Weird.
And like I said in the show notes, it was more like a corporate report on social responsibility than it was a celebration of a creative community, which is sad, right?
And also, like, Gal Gadot came out and I forget what her role is, but she
was like just presenting.
She introduced something, or she presented, and that, in conjunction with that one guy, I don't know who he was, but he introduced...
Yeah, he was a Native American actor.
Right, a Native American actor that served in the Vietnam War.
Right.
And he introduced the montage of war films. So you've got Gal Gadot, who is on record as being supportive of the IDF, which are committing genocide against the Palestinians. And she, like Jerry Seinfeld, she's like all about the Israeli Defense Army and all of their massive human rights violations that they commit against the Palestinians. And she's all over Twitter, like last year, praising them for their, it's unconscionable.
Right.
I mean, I couldn't believe it. And so she was there, and then having this guy also introduce this war montage, this film, up,
and it was a tribute to veterans,
and it was a tribute to veterans, like celebrating war, makes me think that there's some sort of like war agenda going on.
Right.
Like I feel like that's what it was really about.
Right.
It was like patriotic
right.
war.
And
military, veterans, it's unconscionable.
I agree.
It's awful.
And that community in general tends to be anti-war. At least they were a generation ago. And
I know. Can you imagine if 40 years ago or 30 years ago even somebody came out and they were like, "Yeah, I served in Vietnam," they would be like, the stage would be rushed, and they would have tomatoes thrown at them, and they would be like escorted off the stage.
Right. Yeah. They wouldn't have been let on the stage.
What is wrong with our country that we're just so pro-war?
Right.
Like
that we have to. Okay, so it's fine. Whatever, you're going to talk about veterans. That's fine. But see, it's like wrapping yourself in the flag and saying, So
gross.
it's basically using the veteran community. The veteran community is veteran.
Whatever.
The veterinarian community. No. it's using that community to push forward an agenda, right? So they're being used in a way that's not really, again, it was disingenuous, it was false, it rang, hollow. It just wasn't, it just didn't feel right.
That seems to be like the pervasive attitude that we, our takeaway from the whole experience was how disingenuous it was. It really fell flat, and I think it's because one key person was missing this year from the Oscars for the first time in decades. He was missing from the Oscars. He wasn't a part of the Oscars, and it's just not the same without Harvey Weinstein.
I know.
I mean, without him, it's just like
Yeah, I know. Well,
it's not the same.
It's just not the same because you can't make casting couch jokes anymore, right?
Not at all.
But speaking of the whole disingenuousness of it all, I mean, throughout the entire thing, there was, and this happens in every Oscars, but this year just like really stuck in my craw, as it were. And that is the whole follow your dreams bullshit.
It's not possible in this country.
No.
There's a system in place that is set up to keep you from being a success.
Right.
I mean, that is the United States of America.
Right.
It is a system in place to sabotage any efforts you have to try to make your life any better. And believe me, we're feeling it.
We're feeling it for sure. And the Hollywood actors, they are the few and far between. They are the people who actually made it through all the cracks and all the filters and all the preventions. Because, let's face it, artists, musicians, dancers, and actors, for the most part, have a very hard time making a living in the United States. And probably most of the world, but mostly in the United States. Because there is no support for them. Not really. These people are held up as being the pinnacle and whatever, and that's fine.
No, they're predetermined.
But they are in a lot of ways. And it's like
Natalie Portman. Come on, she was like, it's practically royalty. Okay, you're either born into it or you're not, and that's what I'm saying is that is I don't believe for 1 minute that any of these people that we saw last night got there on their own merit.
Right.
Not one. No way.
Who was it that came out and said, I did it on my own?
Yeah.
That was great.
Exactly.
She's like, no, I didn't do it on my own.
Hello from the UK.
Hi, UK.
What do you think of we missed the
Sheriff
we missed the question. It went away.
Julie will look it up. So then, but it also represents the gulf between the very rich and the rest of us. We've said it here before that a lot of the jobs in America, well, everything basically, it's either like just above minimum wage, or it's $100K or more per year. And there's really not much in between. If there is, it's very limited, and you have to have some experience or some training to get into that. Did you see what the...
Yeah, so the person asks about Sheriff Israel. Mm-hmm. So this is regarding the Florida shooting. Well, it's not necessarily the topic that we're discussing right now, but we think he's a piece of shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, we think that he's an establishment tool, and he's being used by the establishment for an agenda that we're not seeing right now.
Right, and he's an he's an ableist as well.
Totally.
So he's basically creating a situation that allows people to start thinking in terms of maybe we should start taking the mentally disabled. And locking them up and making it so that anybody can be disappeared and just said that they're mentally disabled or mentally You know how scary that is? Yeah, it's really scary, and it's based on what you're posting online.
And so that's another thing. Like if you're looking at something like the Oscars, and these people, suddenly the Oscars has turned into nothing but sort of a mainstream political message. Mm-hmm. If you're going to go there, then talk about how Sheriff Israel is trying to criminalize the mentally ill and how he's completely off of his chain. Mm-hmm. You know, don't make like Jimmy Kimmel last night said, "Oh, this is really going to piss off Mike Pence." You know, that's so weak.
What?
That's such weak sauce.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
Come on, really show your stuff. If you're going to use the bully pulpit and your famous royal, you know, status to get a message across than really get a message across.
Right.
You know?
And you know, there's photos of Sheriff Israel out there with, you know, the Clinton people, you know,
yeah, I know,
you know,
hugging Hillary Clinton,
you know, and they're
and Debbie Wasserman Schultz,
right,
you know.
So what was the word I was looking for? They're surrogates,
right?
And you know, and so he, you know, clearly he's part of that club, and it's just we're really afraid of this man. We think that he's really leading people into a direction that is dangerous.
Yeah, and in response to the person who's checking us out from the UK, we just read an article today that it took all of 15 minutes for the MPs.
13, Julie.
13 minutes for the MPs to approve
doubling
the doubling of the salary of your
royalties.
Royalty. And okay, so listen, as Americans, we go, what is wrong with you? Why is this, like, in the 21st century? Why do you even have a royal family? Okay, but on the other hand, we kind of have a royal family too, and we watched it last night. You know, Hollywood is considered our royalty. You know, we don't. You know, and so and
there's plenty wrong with the United States, so we're one to talk.
So I mean, it's like, you know, we should put our money where our mouth is. We're so busy, like a committee of 300 passed the
13 minutes.
In 13 minutes. That's insane.
Yeah.
Well, you know, but then again, it's not, because look at the money that we just give away. We just empty our pockets and our bank accounts and just give it to the 1% here in this country, which are considered the monarchs, the you know, the minority rule, you know, it's like we have our own monarchy. We have our own royalty here. So we're not
right. And so
it would be really hypocritical of us to
exactly. But speaking of that, and you mentioned Jimmy Kimmel, we wanted to talk about that little stunt he pulled, where he took a bunch of the Hollywood royalty across the street to see the proles watching A Wrinkle in Time, and they made the gesture of feeding the people. And they gave them candy, like, as if they're children, right?
Yeah,
and they gave them, and they had a hot dog cannon and shit.
Oh,
and it was
here,
like,
you poor people.
You don't have
across
snacks.
The street. Let us feed you candy. Let them eat cake. You know, let us ingratiate you with our royal presence.
Right, exactly.
And I'm like, this is the worst thing I've ever heard. It's so tone deaf. It is so.
It's more tone deaf than the stunt he pulled last year.
It was just so like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, this isn't Versailles, for fuck's sake.
Well, it is. It is, but they're not realizing that it is, and they didn't realize. You know, again, in tone deafness, he didn't realize, you know, what that actually meant for him to be doing that.
And that's just it. They're so clueless. They're so completely out of the realm of what 90% of the people in this country, how they live and what they experience. That it's like, oh, let's just trot across the street and we'll grace these poor peasants with our presence, because, you know, we're Hollywood and they're peasants, and they'll love it. They'll love it
because they'll love us. But you know what's funny is,
no, we don't.
Jimmy's like, well, they might not know who you people are, you know, referring to the directors and the people that were coming along, and it was like, okay.
So we had to grab a couple of famous people and a couple of hotties who, you know, like Margot Robbie, in order for people to know who
and then they needed some prearranged people in the audience to clap when they showed up,
so
and the prearranged dude that read the card that included his name. I'm Mike, you know, whatever, and I'm doing this. It's like he read it right off the card, so clearly it was not spontaneous.
Right. Yeah. It was such a strange. It was so surreal. It was like, I can't believe I'm actually watching this. You know, I can't believe that I'm actually watching Versailles in front of me.
And we got a comment that Hollywood is organized sexual harassment, and you know, and you know,
of course it is.
Like we said before, they're addressing it, but in the most corporate, bland way that they possibly could.
Yeah, they're totally ignoring the elephant in the room.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. General strike might do it. I think that, we were talking about that this morning, I think, you and I. Yeah, like a general strike.
A general strike is the only way to really,
One set of kudos, though, it was to Frances McDormand, which we were just talking about. Yeah. She says 2 words at the end of her speech. What were they?
She said anarchist.
Oh, she said the word anarchist, but no, inclusive writer.
Right. So she said, 2 words, inclusive writers. And, of course, the internet blew up because...
What's that?
Because everybody went to the internet and was, trying to figure
out...
What's
intersectionalism?
What she meant. Yeah, it was definitely, like this... This show last night was all about weird words that no one had heard of before.
It was a vocabulary
intersectionality, inclusive writers, anarchy. It was like, whoa, what's going on? So, inclusive writers are basically parts of the contract. So, it's writer, R-I-D-E-R, not writer, W-R-I-T-E-R. A lot of people I saw on Twitter, a lot of people were getting it confused. And it's an inclusive writer, which basically says, because they're in a union, it's a union term. So it basically says that everybody gets treated equally. I mean, inclusive means equal. So it's equal pay. So everybody gets paid,
or gets treated accordingly, or whatever it is.
It's and there's no.
They get breaks, so they get to eat the same thing, or whatever is in the rider. That's and like musicians they have riders in their contracts with like venues.
It's really
and stuff,
common in in when you're working with the union.
Right.
So in that sense, I'm like, America should really wake up and have inclusive writers in every form of our labor force. Not just in Hollywood. Hollywood has a very strong union. They have one of the strongest unions.
Hey, we're part of one of them. We're in IATSE,
right?
But we're
the working class.
We're the workers. We're what are we called? We're
ushers.
We're ushers in a theater. So not in a movie theater. Dramatic theater.
I would say that
we're at the bottom.
We should take that.
We need that writer.
Right. We should take that lesson, and it should be across the board. Everybody should have this inclusive writer in their contracts,
right?
So that there's an equality there. And then I want to say though that the one thing that really kind of surprised me, as far as like the big win of the night, which was the best movie, was despite all of this posturing and all of this disingenuous politics and these really corporate hammered out terminology with no heart or feeling behind them, the movie that won Best Picture was nothing but pure art. It was pure beauty. It was not propaganda. It did not have an agenda. It was pure art for art's sake, and it won Best Movie. So I was really surprised because I actually thought it was going to be Get Out or Black Panther. These movies that have underlying...
Well, Black Panther wasn't nominated.
Oh, it wasn't nominated.
But it was talked about,
nominated.
Most of the night.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Get Out, and but there were the other ones too, the billboards, and there were a lot of them.
Yeah.
The Post, I'm glad the Post didn't win because
The Post.
The Post, yeah.
What Post?
The Post, the movie about the
about the Washington Post.
Yeah, the WAPO.
Come on.
Yeah.
So the the fact that Shape of Water won Best Movie was nice. I mean, because it's pure art. It's pure beauty for beauty's sake.
Right.
And it was a simple message, and it was fantasy, and it was just beautiful. And if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it.
Yeah, it's very good. We both were just and we felt really good after that movie. Joe Hickey says that's because the Pentagon funds a lot of it. Nice to see art shining through.
Yeah,
we agree.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
we totally agree with
that.
The
one disappointment for me was that in the animation, feature-length animation, that the one about Van Gogh lost to
To Coco.
which it's like once again I said to Julie, it's like well that's because it's art, it's about art, and pop culture wins over art every time.
Typically.
We didn't get a chance to see Coco. We saw the movie that came out before Coco.
A few years ago, The Book of Life,
which was awesome.
Was a beautiful.
It was also about Day of the Dead.
It looked hand painted, and it was a Mexican movie.
Yeah.
Complete everything. It wasn't Pixar or Hollywood. It came out of a Mexican production company, and it was stunning. It was lovely and beautiful, and the quality of it far surpasses Coco. Now, granted, I haven't seen Coco, but
we know Pixar, and
I'm sure that
we're both animation fans as well. So we're not.
I mean, you kind of have to be when you live in the Bay Area. It's like we're.
But I have to say the one I think it's called Vincent is a beautiful movie as well.
Yeah.
So
or Loving Vincent or Love.
What is it
You're
called?
Loving Vincent, because that's how he signed.
Right. Yes.
Vincent Van Gogh signed his letters like "You're Loving Vincent"
or something along those lines. Yeah. And we saw it. Oh man, it was a while ago. It was like probably back in maybe May. So that's why we're a little unclear on the title. But we were both blown away. And I remember seeing, like the fund campaigns that were going around to make it happen.
GoFundMe, the Kickstarter campaign for it. I mean, we remember hearing about the Vincent Van Gogh movie. It's a painted movie. It's literally painted. Yeah. We remember it back when they were seeking funding for it. Yeah. So the fact that it went from that early stage all the way to being
nominated.
a nominated film. Is pretty amazing.
Yeah, it was really nice.
So in that sense, the end result, Frances McDormand's speech was quite a powerful speech. We were really pleased to see her, say the term inclusion writers. We kind of already knew what it meant. And she also used the term, she also said, "Hey, we're anarchists," and I'm like, "Whoa!" I tweeted that immediately. I was like, "Frances McDormand just said she was an anarchist."
Yeah. Well, somebody on one of our Facebook pages that we follow said that like she and the brothers
the Coen brothers.
The Coen brothers. I almost said Koch brothers. The Coen brothers.
No, not the Koch brothers.
Embrace anarchist themes in their movies sometimes, and I can see that.
Throughout Coen brothers films, you can see anarchist themes for sure.
But and then so then there's one last disappointment for me, and then I don't know how we can wrap this up. But we were talking about this, and it was what's her name? She was on crutches. Jodie Foster. Jodie Foster. Mm-hmm. She kind of let it slip out. I mean, and we're very sensitive to this particular kind of thing because we were talking about being an ableist and things like that.
Right.
Well, she basically scapegoated Tanya Harding.
Right.
Once again, Tanya Harding gets scapegoated in public. Even during a ceremony that features a movie about her celebrating who she is,
right?
And she basically said, she was talking about
why was she on crutches?
Why was she? Yeah, and she
joked
that she
got Tanya.
She got Tanya
by like that. She got kneed or something.
What was she was talking about? What's her name? The actress who's like always at the Oscars and always she was in the Post.
Meryl Streep.
She's like Streep.
Streep Tanya me or something like that.
And we were
it's like, why are you gonna make her a scapegoat again?
Right.
I mean, come on,
Yeah. So we were both.
It's like if you don't know the Tanya Harding story, it's a very, very sad story because she had so much talent, way more than the talent of the person who was injured by Tanya Harding's boyfriend or whatever at the time. Yeah. So, and she was very young and very impressionable. And anyway, the point is like stop scapegoating people.
Right.
I'm sick of it. I'm sick of the scapegoating.
Scapegoating the scapegoats.
It's like it's such an American thing to do. It's like we want to scapegoat the poor. We want to scapegoat the homeless. We want to scapegoat marginalized communities, which we have made into marginalized communities through our disgusting legislation and our processes that are systemic and endemic to our country. And I'm sick of it. It's like stop. It's a really simple analogy, but I always go back to it's like, well, when people say, well, she wouldn't have got raped if she hadn't worn that skirt.
Mm-hmm. Right.
What?
What? Exactly. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
No. How about you just don't rape?
Right. How about that?
I don't know.
Exactly.
Well,
okay. So my up note for the end.
Mm-hmm.
Sufjan Stevens. And
Yay!
St. Vincent.
Sufjan Stevens and St. Vincent. Check them out. Really excellent performance.
Right. Now he didn't have 2 songs nominated, but he had 2 songs that were in 2 different movies that were nominated. So the one was "Call Me by Your Name," "Call Me by Your Name," and the other one was the Tonya Harding movie, and he did the theme song for the Tonya Harding movie. So that was kind of cool, and seeing him perform. It was really a minimal performance, but it was really cool because that's the way he is in some ways. In some ways, he's over the top. And his band that didn't really do much was over the top, and it included Annie being St. Vincent.
Right.
Annie, I don't know her last name now.
Yeah, sure.
St. Vincent. Because, and I thought it was her because, she was dressed like, the tour that she's doing right now.
Yeah.
And she was in a guitar, and I thought, okay, that's got to be.
That's her. Yeah. And it is.
Yeah.
So somebody just commented and said what they're doing to Debbie and Caitlin Johnstone. What's going on? I mean, I know that Debbie gets interrupted on YouTube all the time, and I know, I've had Medium articles taken down through the civil system, through the civil courts, so I'm perfectly aware and very empathetic when it comes to being scapegoated and attacked for writing things that mainstream, may not approve of. So tell me, why don't you make another comment and tell me what's going on with Katie? Because I love her work. I read her work all the time on Steam It and Medium. So that's that. Yeah, I mean, you're scapegoating people that are telling the truth, and that seems to be the way that America is going right now. And so obviously you want to keep talking. You want to keep speaking the truth. Let's see.
Oh, well, Mother Jones. No shit.
Oh, yeah.
Mother Jones
is awful.
It's such a piece of shit publication.
I mean, at this point, it's almost funny, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's almost like it's almost like a badge of honor because they went after Nader so hard after 2000. It was ridiculous. They're such pieces of shit.
Oh, yeah. They're so not.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're just. Well, Mother Jones. It's I feel like the married couple, well now divorced couple from Snopes and Mother Jones are kind of like that same level.
They are. I mean, and
they're really
it's
awful.
A liberal publication that's named after a liberal who did not support the radicals that were of her time. So so she didn't support. She threw the radicals under the bus of her time, and the magazine named for her does the same fucking thing. So So Jamarl Thomas, I'm familiar with Jamarl, very familiar with him. I listened to him, and of course I'm familiar with Tim Black. I mean, I follow Tim Black on Twitter, and I did see the latest message from him that said that he was also taken off of YouTube. So I think that the message is clear, right? I think what we need to do is go to YouTube, and if thousands of us went to YouTube and sent emails to YouTube that said, what are you doing taking these people down? So there's a kid called Jordan Sather. He is also known as Destroying the Illusion. He had 500,000 followers, and in one day, his YouTube account was completely taken down. The very next day, he opened up a new YouTube account called Destroying the Illusion 2.0. And within 1 hour, he had 14,000 followers. And the first video that he did was, will you guys please go to YouTube and tell them to knock it the fuck off? Tell them to stop giving me strikes and stop taking my shit down. So yes, so please do that. So if you reach out to YouTube and get all your peeps together and your community together and say, what the fuck are you doing taking down Sane Progressive, who's got 60,000 followers or whatever, and same thing with Tim Black, who's got 20,000 followers. If you can get all of their subscribers to go to YouTube and send an email that says bring these people back, it really helps because it worked for Jordan. He's again Destroying the Illusion. His name is Jordan Sather. Just
just give it a shot. It can't hurt. Or, they're going to have to go to another platform. They're going to have to go to Vimeo. Right. They're going to have to go to Minds. They're going to have to go to BitChute. I know that Debbie's pretty on. She's on it with BitChute. I know it's harder. I know it's more difficult. But as more and more people transition into different platforms, then their system will upgrade. And it'll become just as easy as YouTube. I think we're okay because we talk about innocuous things.
Well, we fly under the radar because we've got around 200 followers right now.
We don't really have.
We're flying under the radar.
Yeah, we're pretty much still under the radar, and I really encourage people to. The more people like us that don't have a lot of followers that come out and start speaking the truth, when you've got little bits of people here and there that are speaking the truth, it kind of makes up for the bigger ones that are getting shut down, and you can still keep the conversation going.
Right.
Use things that are going on culturally that maybe are disdainful to you, like for instance the Oscars. Use that as a way to get your message across. Our message is really about the same message that Same Progressive has and the same message that Tim Black has. It's just that we're using it, we're filtering it through the Oscars. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
we have
it's a different way.
And now that I know we have an audience watching us, because we barely have like 2 people watching Facebook Live. We have a website called Book of Hours, book-of-hours.com, and that's book. BOOK dash the dash of dash hours OURS.com, and we have a support button. You can go there. We have a PayPal thing that you can support. He said Joe said something about Richie Allen.
He's one of my favorites too. He's gone and he's fucking furious.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
do you know him?
No, I have to look up Richie Allen, and of course JP says that more people should find their voice as well and find a platform. So really do it. Yeah. Really do it. Imagine if all of us did that.
Yeah, we have a Vimeo account, but we don't use that. And I've said this before, but we don't use that for this kind of stuff. We put our art videos there. We're going to start doing more audio, and I'm working on some scripts for like audio pieces that are going to be like more like art oriented, but they also talk about the kinds of things that we're talking about here, but more in a more artistic level. So we're working on that right now. So these are some of the things that we're working on besides these podcasts.
Right.
So again, if you like what we're doing, feel free to, give what you can or not. Yeah. It's up to you. It's your choice. We're not.
Right now, I think what's happening in the culture and in the zeitgeist of our community and what's going on is we are all gathering the information. And so we're, all of us as a community, we're all gathering this information, and we're watching how the establishment is really trying to take that information away from us. And so I think what a lot of people get really frustrated with is they have all this information thrown at them, and then they want to go out and save the world. They want to put on their Superman cape and their Wonder Woman bracelets and lasso, and they want to get out there and they really want to save the world. Just be cool. Just keep talking, keep the information coming in. It might be the next generation that actually does the work, but they're going to need something to go on. They're going to need to understand what it is that we're saying. And so we're still parsing through. And admittedly, Same Progressive has been like a college education, right? Wouldn't you guys agree? Like, hasn't the information that she's provided to all of us, like, with how she goes through the media pieces and she actually says, okay, listen to what this person is saying and see how it doesn't make any sense. Now let's take a look at this piece of legislation that was passed, back in 2012, like with the National Defense Authorization Act that made it legal to propagandize to the American people. How is that in conjunction with what we're seeing today? And see how she helped you put the pieces together. So we're in a learning phase right now. We're in an educational phase, and so what JP and I are trying to do as we're also in this phase is we're trying to be as creative as we can. so that it will stick. You know what I'm saying? For us, for the community, whatever. So
yeah. Well, we guessed that Debbie, we've gotten some crossover audience from Debbie because we've been posting her videos to kind of assist her in keeping things up.
I was
and so thank you for coming to us.
Yeah, I mean,
channel.
I was like, I couldn't believe what was happening. It was like I would be watching her, and then all of a sudden, it would be like it would just disappear. So the next time she went on, I was like, okay, I'm going to save this to my hard drive before it disappears. Now, some of them maybe she may already have it on BitChute, but I'm trying to capture the ones that I can before they go away completely, you know.
And we're kind of our own worst enemies because we did a reintroduction to our new audience a few days ago, and we mistakenly took it down.
I know, we had a really good one.
And it's gone.
It was called Hi.
It's called Hi.
And we just completely, we're like, delete. Oh, oops.
Yeah.
And apparently, and we're not doing this for money.
So
if you're not monetized,
they won't go back and find it for you.
Then they won't find it for you. Yeah. But we appreciate you guys chiming in and tuning in, and we wanted to. I think our takeaway from the Oscars last night was that it's another arm of the propaganda machine.
For sure. Especially the military last night. And
it felt like there's a military agenda there.
Yeah, and then the nonprofit industrial complex.
Yeah, then it's like you could just feel that Soros is behind these like Me Too campaigns or these Time's Up campaigns, which originally started out as something really pure and good, and then they were co-opted, you know? Yeah. And it's like, for fuck's sake, do you really think that Ashly Judd knows what the term intersectionality means? I don't think so. I don't even think she knows what she's talking about. Yeah. You know?
Well, it's like when people used to throw around the word deconstruction and postmodern,
Right.
Yeah.
They used to throw that around a lot.
Yeah.
Without knowing what they were really talking about. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, well, we're going to wrap it up here, I think.
I think so.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in. We really love the company. And we'll just, we'll keep trying. And you guys, you got to do it too. I mean, you got to write something, email YouTube, tell them you want, people to tell YouTube to stop shutting people down.
I know
it's ridiculous.
Yeah,
so
yeah. Well, we're about 30 miles. No, not even 30. We're about 20 miles away from their headquarters, so we could go down and protest. I suppose we could easily protest Twitter because we're just down the street from them. But,
totally.
But in fact, it's just a kind of an insider joke. No,
Thanks.
It's not a joke. It's not. The Walmart.com is across the street from YouTube. Which is just weird, right? It's Silicon Valley. So okay, thanks for watching.
Thank you.
We'll see you next time. I'm JP.
And I'm Julie, and we were live from San Francisco.
Yeah.
So
this is the Book of Hours podcast.
And we'll catch you again very soon. Yeah. Thank you.
Great. Thanks.
Bye-bye. Bye, guys.
Bye.